we are learning a maamer in the second maamer in a hemshech of 3 maamorim. That
recording
is,
in progress.
We had one from Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach Tavshin Lamed Gimel. That's the one we just finished. Then we have another maamer from Matzah Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach Tavshin Lamed Gimel. The Rebbe would often, when Yutas Kislev came out on the Shabbos, he would have a Fabrengen Matzah Shabbos, so that people that usually would come for Yutas Kislev Fabrengen from out of town, or from people to be able to hear in some other means, so he would make one also Matzah Shabbos. And also there's a Chanukah Maimer that's also next week's Dvar Malchus. That's a continuation of this Maimer. It's a 3 Maimer Hemshech. So some of the things we're going to learn the Maimer we learned already. A lot of things he's going to elaborate. Some questions we didn't answer in the previous Maimer he's going to answer over here. For example, he asked a question the previous Maimer about Kiva Makli Avartis Yardin. What's the significance of bringing in that I crossed the Yardin with my staff? The previous Maimer didn't get to that. In our Maimer we're going to speak about it, and in the next Maimer, the third Maimer, the Hemshech, will also speak about it. Okay, let's begin. You redeemed in peace my soul from those that battle me, because with many he was with me. It's brought down this in the Gemara Brachs at the beginning. Anyone who is learning in Torah and he's doing acts of kindness and he's davening with a minyan, Mailan Yalov, I consider it for him as if he redeemed me and my children from amongst the nations of the world. That's what it means, Pada V'Shalom, that he redeemed the Jewish people and Hashem Kaviyachol. How is these 3 things hinted in the pasuk? How do we see about Torah, Gimos Chasadim, davening with a minyan? So he says, "Ve'inyan zeh nilmad mashenamar Pada V'Shalom goyim," and this is derived from what it says, Pada V'Shalom. The word, using the word V'Shalom, indicates this. Pirish Rashi, this is referring to someone that is involved in words and of peace. Torah is considered peace. So Pada B'Shalom, through Shalom, through Torah, which is peace. Where do we see that Torah is called peace? The Chsiva, it says in the pasuk, says Shalom, all of its paths are peace. So too, acts of kindness is also Shalom. That's obviously peace. Out of because he's doing kindness bodily to his fellow, which is what Gemilas Chasadim is about. So the fellow recognizes and sees that the one who's doing the kindness loves him and cares for him. They come to brotherhood. It comes to brotherhood and peace. He's making peace between the poor and the rich. He's making peace in the world. So we see in the word Shalom hinted Torah and hinted Gemilas Chasad. Where do we see in this pasuk the idea of davening with a minyan? So the Rebbe is going to bring the Chazal, the Farshim explain that it's 2 places in this pasuk is hinted. It says someone davens with a minyan. Davening with a minyan, not davening alone, that's the idea of peace. And also, that's also what it means, the literal meaning, that with many he was with me, in the literal sense of the pasuk. What's it mean that he was with many, he was with me? That they davened with me. So there's 2 places in the pasuk that we see the idea of davening with a minyan. First of all, davening with many other people, that's the idea of peace. And another thing is that Rabim Hayimadi, the many that were with me, this is something that has to do with the idea of peace. Or this is something that has to do with the idea of davening with a minyan, excuse me. It's explained in the Marsha and other commentaries in the Gemara. These three matters, these are the three pillars upon which the world stands. Torah, obviously, Avodah. So there's the service of the Karbanis, but we know these days Tefillos become Karbanis. Tefillos were established in the place of Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, Tefillah is also in the category of Avodah. Gemilas Chasadim. Gemilas Chasadim is the third pillar upon which the world stands. These also correspond. The three things that it says over here in part of Shalom also corresponds to the three ideas of thought, speech, and deed. That every single Yid has three aspects and three ways of serving Hashem in thought, speech, and deed, in every time and every place. Where do we see these three things of Torah and Gemilas Chasadim and davening with a minyan that reflects thought, speech, and deed? How do they correspond to them? Someone's involved in Torah study. The way how a person has to study Torah, the Chazal, derived from a pasuk, it has to be, you bring them out in mouth. One should not study with their eyes, by just reading their text with the eyes. To fulfill the mitzvah of learning Torah, one needs to enunciate the words, express them in their mouth. That's l'moitzi'ehem b'feh. Chazal Darshan, it says, Chaim hem l'moitzi'ehem. It's life for those that find it. Al tikra moitzi'ehem al moitzi'ehem. Do not read it those who find it, but those who extract it, that bring it out in their mouth. Also we see, in Kriyashma we say all the time, V'dibarta bam, you shall speak in them. Therefore, Torah study falls into the category who inyan adibur is the idea of speech. Gemilas Hasadim, and acts of kindness, who inyan amaisa, that's the idea of action. Maisa mitzvahs, the action of mitzvahs, shezel, shegemilas Hasadim, Shkula Keneg Kolam Mitzvahs, top of page Vav. That's the idea that doing acts of kindness is equivalent to all the mitzvahs. Ubedugmas Yad Yaminoi Shala Adam, similar to the right hand of a person. Sheba Mizbata Koiche Shal Kol Gufa Adam. It's brought down that the right hand expresses the entire power. The stronger hand expresses the entire power of the body of the person. The same thing. The right hand in Torah mitzvahs is doing acts of kindness, and that acts of kindness is symbolic of and corresponds to all the actions of the mitzvahs. So therefore, the idea of Gemilas Chasadim corresponds to all the mitzvahs that we do in action. So that's the level of Maisa. What is the avoid of the heart? Like it says in the pasuk, love the b'chol you should serve him with all your heart. And avoid that involves the heart is davening. We know that heart has to do with the idea of thought, in other words, intention and so on. So we need to have, so the davening is about the idea of thought. So these are the three things. Nafshi, he's studying Torah, Gemilas Chasadim, and davening. Torah is speech, Gemilas Chasadim is action, and Tefillah is thought. That's what it says. He redeemed from those that battled me. That's the B'Shleimus, when the person has his thought, speech, and deed in a way of completion and perfection. Excuse me for a second. So then, he has nothing what to be concerned about and be fearful of the war with the Yetzer Hara. That is the core, and that's the cause of all wars. Why does Chas v'Sholom a Yid has to go into physical battle? That's because when it came to battling the Yetzer Hara, he didn't actually fulfill and do that battle with the Yetzer Hara that he should have been doing. So by having his machshava dibra ma'isa, by having his Torah mitzvahs b'shleimus, that redeems him from the war with the Yetzer Hara. That's what he says. He redeemed me from from battling me. In other words, he doesn't have to be at war. He's not at war with the Yetzer Hara. He doesn't have to be at war at all. Then he says in line 9, and another request that David HaMelech expresses for Klal Yisrael, it should be in a way of peace. The redemption should be in a peaceful way, instead of just an ordinary redemption. Something that we find in the avoid of every single person. Sometimes the service of the war with the foreign God that's within you, it comes through great toil, through great effort. To such a degree that Chazal say, whoever is greater than his fellow, his passions are greater than him. Therefore, since his passions are greater, therefore he needs a big war to be able to deal with those passions. Sometimes he has an assistance, that Hashem helps him. That the war should be in an easy manner. Similar to a physical war in the literal sense. The victory in war is eventually, ultimately dependent upon Hashem. Just like in the war with our passions, with our Yetzer Hara, we need Hashem to assist us. But in the war itself, there are many types of war. In the way of going to battle, actually fighting a war, or in a manner that he redeems in peace from those that battle me. This is what David HaMelech says he redeemed in peace. His redemption was in the way of peace. In the similar to this was the idea that he redeemed in peace by Shlomo HaMelech. After David HaMelech prepared all the matters for Shlomo, he set the stage for Shlomo, including the building of the Beis HaMikdash. Everything was ready from David's perspective. Only the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash had to take place through Shlomo HaMelech. Like it says in the pasuk, your son. Hashem told David HaMelech that your son will be the one to build the Beis HaMikdash. But the preparation for this, that this was something that Hashem gave him the knowledge to be able to build it with all the information and all the details. David was through David. So that's what he means, that it's in a peaceful way, because David HaMelech set the stage for the peace by Shlomo HaMelech. Now he's going to go and elaborate more about this redemption in peace. So he says in the bottom paragraph, line 29, the general explanation this is, in the state and situation that the Yidden find themselves amongst the nations, there's many types. There's a type of way that there's a need for a war. Concerning this, it says, rise Hashem, and they will be scattered. In other words, that they're those that want to attack the Yidden, Hashem reveals himself and they scatter. There's also a manner of redeeming in peace, like it was in the time that Shlomo HaMelech sat on the throne of Hashem, that he sat in his place in the holy city of Yerushalayim. Anything that they had to conquer and acquire from the other nations, he didn't have to go into war with them. It was such a way that the nations around them on their own used to carry and bring tax to Shlomo HaMelech, like the story with the queen of Sheva, that she brought him gifts, etc. The ultimate level of redemption and peace will be in the future time. Through Mashiach, David, he will also be from the house of David. Which of course, Rambam, like the Rambam writes, that Mashiach will arise from the house of David. But in another place, the Rambam adds in other Sfarim that it's not just enough that he has to come from the house of David. David had many children. He has to come from the offspring of David Shlomo. So we see that the Pod of Shalom that David HaMelech spoke about will reflect eventually in its fullest measure by David HaMelech's offspring by Mashiach. Then will be fulfilled what was foretold. Then I will transform to the nations a clear language, that they should all serve him as one. Not only will all the nations bring a tax, like they brought a tax to Shlomo HaMelech. Only the taxes were brought to Shlomo HaMelech. But the nation themselves remained in the kingdom of Shva, or remained whichever other country. So they weren't really transformed. They gave a tax to Shlomo, they brought Shlomo gifts, but the nations, they remained where they were in their state. In a very simple sense, if they were idol worshippers, they must probably remain idol worshippers. So rather, when Mashiach comes, it won't be that way. It will be much greater. But rather in such a way that all the nations themselves, not just their taxes, will go to Shlomo, but they themselves, the people themselves, will be completely transformed to serve Hashem as one. Until it be fulfilled what was foretold, that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. The Rambam concludes in the Pedic, after speaking about that the parentage of Mashiach. The entire world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. That even to such a degree will the knowledge of Hashem influence that even the wild animals and wild beasts will not do bad, will not destroy. Even the animals will have a perception of the knowledge of Hashem, because it says the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. So therefore the Mefarshim explain, with the awareness of Hashem even permeating the animals, they will not do bad, they will not destroy. And in addition to that, it says, in the pasuk it says, they will not destroy, they will not do bad, they will not destroy my entire holy mountain. That's it. Just on the base of Mikdash they won't destroy, just in the Har HaBayis. So he says, no. Since in every place where there is any existence, it will be a holy mountain. Why will it be a holy mountain? Because it will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. That's why it says B'chol Har Kodshim, that my entire holy mountain, the wild animals will not destroy, because the entire world will be like a holy mountain, because it will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. Page Ches. Since the pasuk Pod of Shalom says and is addressed to every single Yid, I feel even at the time of exile, like it's understood from the statement of the Chachamim in the Gemara itself, as if he redeemed me and my children from amongst the nations of the world. That means that we still find ourselves in exile. So it's understood that even when we find ourselves still in Golus, there's such an avodah. Shal yada nases shal yada nases b'zman hagolus gufa maimed u'matzud b'dani li'ul u'banim beinu b'soilon. It happens even in the time of Golus itself, a situation where I and my children are redeemed from amongst the nations of the world. Shezoi klolas ha'avodah the Torah avodah gnus hasadim. That's a general avodah of Torah avodah and doing acts of kindness. But in this itself, there has to be a unique manner of doing it. How does one ensure that even when they're in a time of Golus, they are attaining a state of Geula, of redemption? So it has to be by Oisik b'Torah Mosadim Mispal B'Tzibur. It has to be through being involved in Torah and doing acts of kindness and davening with a minyan. So we're holding Ois Beis, bottom of page Ches. I'm sorry, bottom of page, middle of page Ches. So now we're going to go back. We said this mimer is a continuation. We're going to go back to the issues and questions that we had in the previous mimer. Some of it will be familiar. Those parts I'll go through quickly. The other parts I will add and point out if it's something new, etc. This will be understood by prefacing what was explained previously. Katointi, I've become humbled from all the kindness of all the truth. Because I crossed the Yarden just with my staff. And now, give a look, I've been so successful. With the guests, it's known the question that we asked in the previous mimer also concerning the order of the matters that he's enumerating. Initially he says from all the kindnesses, and afterwards he says from all the truth. To be able to understand the question, first we have to preface the meaning of I've become humbled from all the kindnesses and from all the truth. So first he's going to bring something now, we didn't have in the previous mimer, that is one way of learning the Katointi. Like it's explained in Gemara Shabbos, what is the idea of Katointi Mikol Chsadim? That it says over there that a person should not rely on miracles for different reasons. One reason is you don't know if a miracle is going to occur, and then you will become liable for anything that happens to you bad because you were supposed to take care of yourself and instead you relied on miracles and it didn't happen. And then the Gemara also says, Im oisim loines, even if they do perform a miracle for him, menakib loy mizchuyosav, they deduct, they subtract from his merits. So now he has less merits. How do we know that a person that miracles are performed from him has his merits deducted? It says, Maikra, what's the pasuk for this? Yaakov Avinu said, when he was davening to Hashem to help him from Esav, he said, I've become smaller from all my kindness and from all my truth. What does that mean? He's davening to Hashem because he's fearful that he doesn't have enough merits to protect him now from Esav. Rashi says, it's become smaller and minimized, my merits, because of the kindnesses that you already did. So now the Rebbe brings in the explanation that we had before from the Alter Rebbe, like the Alter Rebbe explains in the letter that he wrote after coming back from Petersburg, after the miracle of being freed from prison on the 19th of Kislev, then every single kindness that Hashem does for a person, he has to be very humble. Because chesed, kindness, is actual closeness of Hashem. And the closer we are, whoever is closer to Hashem, even more so, this should evoke by him even more humility. The more a person is in the Hashem's presence, which is expressed by receiving Hashem's kindness, he is more like nothing and insignificant. Therefore Yaakov was very small in his own eyes because the great kindnesses, and he didn't feel himself entitled to be helped because he was completely humbled by all the kindness that Hashem did for him. So now the Rebbe concludes with the question, Aval Pisa in the moving I say, but according to it's not understood the order top of page test. Shemagdim Mekol Chasadim V'Charkach Mekol Emes. First he says from all the kindnesses, and afterwards he says from all the truth. Hariyah Pirish Mekol Emesu, the explanation that from all the truth is Kmeshukosov Rashi Pirish Al Torah, like Rashi writes in his commentary on the Torah. What's it mean, the truth? What does truth have anything to do with what Yaakov Avinu is davening? Amitas dvarcha, the truth of your word. Sheshamartali kol ha'avtacha shivtachtani. You performed and you kept all the promises that you promised me. So therefore, there's the promises that you promised me, and because you fulfilled your promises, I am now humbled by it. And because you've done kindnesses to me, I have been humbled by it. So the question that we also had in the previous Maimer, or move on, so it's understood from the perspective of the kindnesses that Hashem doesn't do because He promised, because He owes us, but He does it total as a completely kindness. Nasa in the Katointi Yoiser Masher Mitzad Em Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim Masher Avtiach. So the humility of that a person is and has becomes more so than the result of the truth, which is Hashem fulfilling what He promised. Because when Hashem fulfills what He promised, that's not so kind as when He's fulfilling and doing things that are complete kindness that He doesn't owe us. This means as follows: even concerning the idea of a promise, which is kol emes. There is a concern and a worry. Yaakov Avinu was concerned that how could it, the Mefarshim and Rashi even explains it. Why was Yaakov Avinu worried? Yaakov Avinu was promised by Hashem that he would be protected. So why all of a sudden this whole concern, this whole worry? But since he was worried that maybe Shema Yigur Machet, this is something the Rebbe is adding over here. Rashi says that he was worried that a sin can cause that even the promises that Hashem promised him would be not fulfilled. Therefore, you could say, I become humbled from all the truth. Even though my sin could have caused that I wouldn't have been worthy, you followed and you did all the promises that you promised me. But even though that is something to make a person humble with, surely there's a greater advantage and a greater quality of pure kindness that's not because of promises. From the expression of the pasuk, first he says, I become small from all the kindnesses, and then he says, from all the truth. It seems to indicate that there's something even higher, all the truth. Another question that we mentioned the previous minor we didn't answer yet. Also, we need to understand what he says following this. That I crossed this Yarden with my staff. The simple meaning in this statement is like Rashi explains. I didn't have any silver, I didn't have any gold, I didn't have any cattle, only my staff. The lechura seemingly had a makil eine inyan nechasim. A staff is not about possessions. It's not about I have this, I have that, and I have my staff. The staff is only a tool. This is the way the Rebbe words the question here. This is a new perspective on the question. It's only to assist the person's travels. What's the connection even between the staff and becoming humble because of all the kindnesses? The staff, the walking is not like saying, I had $1 and now I have $1 million. The staff is not about possessions. The staff is only to help him walk. Also, according to explanation, that what was he saying by I crossed the Yarden with my staff? Rashi also says this other explanation that the Medrash says that he used his staff to cross the Yarden. Miraculously, he split the Yarden with his staff, like Moshe Rabbeinu did by the Yam Suf, etc. But still, in all, even if that's the idea of the staff that he was hinting at, so then this is just one of the many kindnesses and truths that Yaakov Avinu was saying that Hashem did for him. Why does he distinguish and point out this specifically from all the other kindnesses and truth that, you know what, you did for me this thing that I crossed the Yarden by hitting it with my staff? You have already the general category of all the chsadim and all the truth. Why point this out specifically? What's the significance of this specifically?